The data working group, well, it seems like it could be a pretty dry story when you start thinking about data. But it's actually, pretty interesting when you get into studying it. And so that's the story we're going to follow here tonight of how we started to look at our data and what ideas and solutions we came up with for OMSPA. So the members of this group, Dave Branson, Daryl Halliday, Steve Duff, and myself are the main members. Really, I am probably the least experienced with data of all these people. Steve's the chief economist at OMAFRA. Dave works with GIS data continuously with agricultural companies and groups on mapping and all kinds of things. Daryl worked with databases for one of the boards of education. So these guys were great to work with. I guess the thing for me is I'm the one that holds the keys to OMSPA's data and work with it every day. So in that sense, I guess that's why this became my baby in a way. And of course, we had a lot of support from Frank and Randall and George Brook, our consultant. All these guys are invaluable with, big picture and keeping the process going kind of comments and insights. So really, so like many of the groups, we got started in November and then went through into February. We had most of the work done before the season hit us, and then kind of went on hiatus through the season and finally managed to get back together to polish things off here a couple of weeks ago. And this is our pretty simple mandate: determine what data we need. And here's a few of the categories. Our production, which many of you know, we have a production survey, so we're already tapping into some of that. Producer information, information about manufacturing, distribution, retail, how syrup is sold and marketed. And then we had to look, once we kind of looked at the overall categories, what we felt we might need, what data do we have and what are we missing? What are the gaps? And we'll talk more about that as we go. And so for those gaps, what's our strategy for finding that data and improving the data we do have? And how do we keep this data, evergreen? It's a very, certainly a catchphrase these days, but it's very appropriate here. It's hard to keep your data current, and doesn't do you much good if it's 10 or 15 years out of date. We've got to keep it current all the time if we can. So why do we need data? Great quote here from Frank. Accurate data is essential to maximize the future of Ontario maple syrup sector and to maximizing the value of your personal maple business. I don't know about those of you that are on the call tonight, but I have a bit of a love-hate with data. I love what it can tell me, but you can burden yourself terribly with collecting it and trying to maintain it. So we're trying to avoid that and come up with a good way to provide useful data for us. And as it says in number 1 here, proper data that empowers us to make informed decisions. That's the beauty of data. We can increase efficiencies and eliminate doubt. We're less guessing. We can look at the data and see the story it's telling us. We can see problems and challenges, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. Long-term strategic planning. This whole planning process is about collecting data in one way, shape, or form to allow us to make proper decisions for our future. It's a competitive advantage for us as well in the maple sector. A lot of the other jurisdictions really don't have less data than we do now. Not compared to someone like Quebec or a jurisdiction like Quebec, but certainly compared to others. And even from what Steve Duff tells us, working across the agricultural commodity groups, we already have better data than some of those. Excuse me. Quality data is important for further sectoral funding. Any of you who've ever worked on grant application processes and reporting processes, data is a huge part of that. They want to be able to measure to see the successes and the problems of what's going on. And it will help improve our governance. We'll be able to see better what's happening within OMSPA and our membership and respond to that. So what data is relevant? I won't drill down a lot here as we move through. Certainly, we've got a pretty small group here. If something catches your eye and you want further explanation, I'll do my best. Just interrupt me. We've only got a few of us on here, so it'd be pretty easy just to break out into some discussion for a minute. So here's some of the categories that we looked at. Producers, the contact information, succession planning, business structure, sugar bushes, bush lots, where are they located? How's the tapping done? How many taps? Production facilities. This is something we already collect a certain amount of information on in our production survey. And annual production, again, stuff we get in our production survey right now. Did I miss a slide there? No, I guess not. So here's a little further breakdown on what information you'd see in producer / members. It's at the top here, we're looking at all the contact information, human resources, types of staff employed, number of paid volunteers, training. Something like that could be, you think, well, why do you want to know that? Well, it could really help with an application for a grant to help our members with human resources issues or things like that. So if we knew more information about it. It also helps us tell the government how many people are employed in the maple sector, so why it's important. Communications channels, what do our producers use? So how do we contact them? Because this is what they're using. Business structure and character, data about ownership structure, all those kinds of things. We need to know about our members so we can help them the best way we can. Non-member, this is going to be a tricky one. How do we get information about people who aren't members or aren't anymore? Succession plans, an important thing in agriculture these days, and Indigenous identification. We have a lot of maple in Indigenous land areas, so it's important that we work with them and know how to do that. Sugar bush woodlot. So where is it? How's it tapped? How much sap comes out of it? Power, are people running a lot of generators? Is solar an issue? Business best management practices. Do you have any certifications? Are you using our manual? Production facilities. A lot of this is equipment related, but also like a food safety plan. What sort of procedures and things you're using? Annual production. Of course, we're capturing a lot of this data already. Production dates. It's certainly providing a lot of valuable trend information. We've had several research groups approach us to get information on our start and end dates and things like that. They're studying climate change. We have a bunch of that data going back a number of years. So here's a few more groups: the geography, the slope, all the basic things about your bush, industry sector, government surveys, OMSPA production surveys, research. So these are all the different areas that we could look at there. Retail, packaging, pricing, distribution, and the consumer market. You know, we're talking a lot about the future of the Sweet Ontario program and things like that. We need more information about the consumer market to really make a good evaluation of that. So here's some of these different areas. You know, some of these are things that we may not use very much ourselves as an association, but if we have or can know where to find that data, we can point researchers to it that are working with us to look at these kinds of things to benefit our whole sector.
John, it's Randy. Just back to that slide. Some of these things may not be familiar terms to us, but Dave Branson, who is the geopositioning person that does a lot of the work for John Deere, Precision Agriculture, works with a lot of large companies that have harvesting schedules and things like this. That is his bread and butter. And he said some of this information will be more useful as time goes on. And so we're probably going to at some point have to explain what quaternary geology is to somebody. But he says there's
quaternary. It's quaternary geology, yes.
Yeah, more than 3 syllables, and I'm having issues here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's just it. And some of these are things that we're not going to collect. Like a lot of these things that Dave put in like this are things that we can obtain from other sources. It's not something you're going to have to fill it on a survey and say, hey, dear, what's our quaternary geology? These are things that are on maps and databases that someone like Dave has access to. But it's helpful for us to know about them and know where they are and what the best sources for them are.
Yeah, just like the cadastral boundary. Sorry, you got to pronounce for me more and more 3 syllables again. But
yeah, that one I'm not as familiar with. But
yeah, anyway,
I did geography at school, so I know quaternary. That's basically that's kind of geography.
My comment here: don't be frightened by the terms. Dave Branson knows about
yeah.
what they are, and he's really extremely knowledgeable on this. He's very accomplished.
Yeah. Industry sector. So yeah, we get into the agricultural census and some of this kind of information. Again, some of this might be information that we might collect, and we do already, like dollars invested annually by producers, and you know, our also memberships and production surveys. But agricultural census data, that we're going to go to OMAFRA and StatsCan for that kind of thing. They will have already collected it. This will be a little more familiar to most of us. Packaging, pricing, sales channels, value-added products, marketing, all these kinds of things. If we get into developing out some of the ideas in the product differentiation and marketing working groups recommendations, then we're going to have to spend some more time on this kind of data. Again, consumer market, this is kind of the flip side of it too, isn't it? Consumer preferences, purchasing habits, all this is part of that same basket. And these are things that, you know, we would have to, these kinds of things, we could probably find some of this data already existing. We have a list of studies that we have collected. That a lot of that data was for the product differentiation and marketing group. We have studies that have been completed for some of these things there, but also we could be at the point, if we have proper funding, to go to somebody like Ipsos Reid or those kinds of folks that study markets and consumer behavior to commission our own study. So this will make a little more sense. So where are we going to get this data? We've just named off all these reams of data really here. And where is it going to come from? So you can see at the top, we have OMSPA producer survey is a big part of that. And we really need to keep and plan to keep that going. We already have a lot of contact information and things like that about our members in our OMSPA membership database. And we did a training survey that Phil's group for the ART, I'm trying to remember what it stands for, Applied Research and Training Group, working group, did a training survey. So that was, what's your preference for being contacted? How would you like to receive training, digitally, in person, things like that. GIS, that's that stuff Randall was talking about that Dave Branson works with all the time. Geographic Information Systems is what GIS stands for. So you're looking at how things work over the land surface. OMAFRA, we have a great friend in Steve Duff, who's been working with OMAFRA for years. And in fact, he worked with Ray on a lot of the initial information around 2014 to 2016 on the impact of maple in Ontario. And so there's still some of that data around, and it needs improving and updating. AgriCorps, that's who we all go to for our risk management, agri-stability, our farm registrations. And then of course we have StatsCan itself, the mother of all information sources. So we have also just a note on the side here. As we did this, what we did was we created this big spreadsheet that listed like all those different things that were listed in those groupings up here. We broke these down into data points in a spreadsheet. So we had a category, consumer marketing and consumer information, and then boom, here are the things we're interested in that. And then where can we find that? So that's all listed in the spreadsheet. And if you want to go and have a look at it, you can, because there's a link here that will allow you to get in and see that spreadsheet. And once I post this up, that link should be live. And if it doesn't, if you're interested and want to get in and see it, then by all means, just email me and I can send you a link.
Just a point here is that it's always good to say, oh, we should have such and such an information. But what the group did was actually search out and found as much as they could and then identify the gaps. And that's what's in the spreadsheet. So it was a lot of work, which this PowerPoint doesn't fully represent in itself by being a PowerPoint. The other thing is that OMAFRA and Stats Canada collect information, but they always keep asking us, what do you want us to collect? And that's what we're partially answering here. So that's why that spreadsheet broke it down to say, hey, Stats Canada, when you go about doing something, we need this type of information as well. So there's a lot behind this particular slide and in those spreadsheets. Carry on.
And the gaps we'll get into a little bit here as we go into the next. There we go, gaps in OMSPA data. So, we made our wish list and then went through and looked at where we could get those different things. And then there were some blanks left, and these are the blanks. So we don't know things like the age and experience of primary owners, staffing levels. How many hours per season does it take to run the operations of our members? And do they have training for the work they do, or qualifications, or is it just something they've learned? Would it be helpful to have some training? Marketing, communications channels, how many people are using social media, how they're using it, how they're advertising. All these different things you can see. Non-member information. This is going to be a tough one to crack. Contact info for non-members. Maybe we'll be coming out to our members. Who do you know that's not a member that we can contact to get some basic information from them? And then another one we realized was summer tour, that we don't carry this information from year to year. It just rests with the group that had the tour, hosted the tour. And then we don't have that kind of information on a year-to-year basis, one to pass on to the next group that's organizing it, and to help with planning, so that you have some idea of numbers. Are we ahead? Are we behind? How are things going? What should we do here? Sugar bush, woodlot, bush locations, geographic. Do people have myth tips? Do people haul sap? Are they buying sap? Monitoring systems. There's some of the things we're missing there. Production facilities. Do you use reverse osmosis? We actually know that one kind of got through. We already collect that information. But we don't know some of these other things. Capacity of people's evaporators, draw-off systems. And again, this comes down to, this would help us with planning what kind of seminars we want to offer. Do people have these or not? Annual production. We have a lot of that already because we've been doing that for a while, but there's a few things we're missing there. Oops, too far. And retail, here's some of the things that would be helpful to know. So the big thing is, what are the strategies? Did I miss one? I don't think so, but yeah, there we go. What are the strategies for addressing these gaps? So we can do this by expanding our current survey. And we also could include or do a separate survey on cost of production data to help the cost of production working group keep their data evergreen. So we're not working off models that are 10 years old. This is something StatsCan has actually asked me about, and has talked to OMSPA in the past, is working together to collect data instead of doing separate surveys. Many of you probably get a Maple survey every few years to fill in already from StatsCan. And I think really one of the things that became apparent to me is getting back to that the burden of collecting and maintaining data. I think we could actually decrease the size of our annual production survey a bit, and just get those things that we really need on an annual basis, which is mainly production related information. And then we can every 3 years or so go on a larger scale survey, perhaps working with StatsCan, and collect more of that other information. So I think we might actually find it easier for our members. Then they wouldn't be filling out our production survey information and StatsCan. We could keep it nice and simple, hopefully. And we can work with Steve Duff as well on what exact data we can get through the province, and try and renew that on a similar cycle. And now that we have some sort of plan and idea of what we need and what we want to do, it makes it a lot easier for us to try and get some money in form of grants to collect and work on this data. One of the issues we have right now is we actually have quite a nice set of data going back. We have pretty good data, I think, about 12 years back, and then we have more production survey data past that, but I don't think we still have the individual data points from that. But we do the same analysis on that every year. We haven't gone through and looked at, okay, what are our historical trends here? What's happening over time, and to see what the information that could come out of that. For those of you that saw some of the higher level statistical analysis that Bob Snyder did in the membership group, there's a lot more statistically we could do with what we already have. And it's just having, the resources to do that. Importance of member surveys. So these are really essential for us, and I think we as an association our members have bought into this. We had quite a high return rate last year. It was close, I can't remember whether it was 50%, it might have been 40% on our production survey last year. So our members are used to doing it, and especially I think if we work to make it more user-friendly to fill out and streamline it when we can, then we'll only improve our participation in it. And really, it's the only way that we can capture a lot of the essential data that we need. So here's just some more points on what we've identified, how it could be expanded, additional information, human resources, communications channel. These are some of the things that came out in the gaps. The business structures of our members and other maple operations, succession planning, cost of production, and carbon utilization data could be an important thing down the road. So we're recommending that a permanent data committee be formed, and this group would oversee the survey of our members, and then, as we've mentioned, look at moving to a 3-year rotation for a larger survey. So here's just all this stuff laid out more graphically. Another big thing that is brought out here that we haven't really discussed at all is how do we store this and keep it accessible to people that need it, but keep the data confidential. The points, many of it comes in anonymously right now, so that makes it a bit easier. But these are all issues that we'll have to solve in that data committee. And it really helps having people with experience like Dave and Daryl Halliday and Steve Duff to sort these issues out. There's even legal issues here, right? That we have to treat this information properly and keep it confidential. And recommendation 3, you can see that point coming through about keeping it evergreen. If we put a little effort in every year and keep pecking away at it and have a good structure to our data and stuff, we can do this fairly easily and not have it a burden for those of us that work in administration for OMSPA, and then for our members as well, the collection of it. And then recommendation 5, you can see trying to work with StatsCan to merge those surveys to reduce the overlap. And that's it. So we obviously, as a group, we feel data is really important for what we do. And that's why we're members of the group, and we will proceed from there. Any questions or comments?
John, Jules here. Having to keep data for most of my career in IT has been a challenge, especially in the natural resources section where I've seen geological data. You go into some of the government buildings and you suddenly discover an Apple tree, an Apple II, even a Mac through my careers, with gazoodles of data disks, or you name it. Spend thousands of dollars and millions of dollars to have some data on different portions of Canada. Disappointed to see not being kept, and we had to reinvest money as a government to actually refresh some of that, but it was all there. I just wouldn't want to see this happen here. And like your point 2, I believe, is how do we keep that data? It'd be a good thing to I don't know what format will we be using, what application, but definitely something of a very common standard, comma delimited or something, that we can grab with any other apps if we ever change in the future, or if we actually use a website that has its own format. I must assume this was discussed, right?
Yeah, we did have some talk about that. Yeah, the big things were, more what data we needed, and then when we can get to the nuts and bolts, we'll look more at that kind of, because it gets, well, as you know, it gets pretty technical pretty fast there. So
Jules, as a thought to help you feel good about that is that both Daryl Halliday and Dave Branson are extremely versed in this. Daryl having his career based on it, and he only retired in the last year. And Dave Branson is a leader in his field, and they're producers. And I'm sure Dave Branson will make sure this is done right. So
a key thing is Ray here. Sorry, it was late. I had some company and quick. The data we've had, this production survey data, membership data, is about 2001, I think, John, 2000 or 2001. So we've got 20 plus years of, and as you know, all the science guys on the call know, trend over time data is really, really important. It charts the trends, and it charts progress and regress and everything else. So the core principles and the core data in our survey, and I see that you're suggesting it should remain robust, and then we normally expand that as our needs are apparent. Like we're going to do a research strategy, so we ask more questions. But our questions should be similar, and so that we have comparisons over time. So I totally support this. This is awesome. And I think that we can set some parameters to help us make sure that we are credible and that our data is reliable down the road. But those are some of the principles that we need to incorporate into a terms of reference for the committee.
And just to make sure people understand that the data committee is a committee of the board in the same way as it would be the research and technology transfer committee, in the same way as which marketing promotion is committee. It elevates our data collection and maintenance and activity to the level of a committee of the board versus just sort of something we do now and again.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you.
John, it's Phil. Do you have any rough idea of costs involved with this activity?
not at this point, no. I mean, that's gonna run down to the the technical side of things. No, we don't.
Obviously it depends on exactly what we do, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Just sort of order of magnitude I was just interested in. Okay.
Yeah. And, I think it would come forth as any other committee of the board does, right? Here's what we want to do. Here's a budget proposal, or we're going out and looking for grant dollars to do projects, right, on it. So. And the other thing that's hard to pin down about it is, how does that dovetail in with what other groups are doing within OMSPA? Because obviously a lot of this data feeds into other groups, right? Whether that's the M&P, even our TTC, right? What data is it that you're looking for and are getting funding to do? So.
Right.
John, my recommendation is not to be too complex. So that, let's say, for example, one day the milk truck runs over you. I know we've got Terry here. Terry's on tonight, and I'm not picking on Terry. I'm just saying.
It won't be Terry's milk truck anyway.
No. But if you get hit by a truck that anybody else can pick it up, that is one of my things that I always had. Because someone new comes in and oh my God, what's this? And like Ray said, we've got 20 years. I don't know where it was kept all along. But definitely it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, well, now it's in a portable hard drive and in the cloud. So
Mhm.
Okay, you got 2 spots. Awesome.
yeah,
Turn
so there you go.
spot's always a good thing too.
Yeah. And there's probably a couple other spots. If I looked hard, I could find it. So,
Okay.
so yeah, there obviously a lot of details still to develop for sure.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to remain in the corporate memory of 1 or 2 people. Ray's been a corporate memory. Oh, there's this study, there's that study, there's something over here. I think I remember that one. I don't know if I have it. Maybe it's lost. And it's just so that we when it's done, when we find it, it is permanently fixed to the organization.
So Ray, don't catch Alzheimer's. Is what you're
No. But and of course, I had a computer crash 2 years ago where I lost a whole bunch of stuff that was corporate memory stuff, unfortunately, on paper. But anyway, I can. Yeah. So but you're right. It shouldn't rely on institutional memory from 2 or 3 members that have been around forever, and have that accessible in our database. So this is awesome. Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's strategically important that Steve Duff was a very close connection to this working group, and offering more support. We'll do more for you and with you when you figure out, and we figure out jointly what it is we need to do. And this is a big step towards it.
And we're lucky that Steve was involved with us 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the initial type of analysis we did with building the success document. So he's got institutional memory in his own way and a better data bank probably than I do. So that's awesome.
You know, and one thing that I think this will evolve as we go, not just the technical details, but you know, really we're kind of missing a little bit here. We've made inferences to it, but there are so many studies and papers and things like that again I have in a couple places on hard drives. You know, even things like all the original versions, the AI files of our recipe books and all those things. We need to have those pictures that we use in marketing. All that stuff needs to be stored properly and available to those that need it. So,
well, not only that, paper binders that I gave to Todd Ludy on the ice storm that came from Don Dodds, a huge amount of 2 volumes, massive binders of research that now may be applicable to this last Derico wind tempest that we had last Saturday. And so there it is. And so Jenny would have it, but it's all paper.
I think I have those binders here, right?
Oh, maybe I gave them to you, John. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're here. So yeah.
Yeah, I got them from Don Dodds.
Right.
And so then now that's 24 years ago. It sounds like yesterday, but there's been a huge amount of science done. And so what can we learn from that? And all of you know that. So we need to tap into that as well.
Yeah, it's really easy to lose that stuff. Like we had a couple of filing cabinets full when we moved everything down from Kempville. But you know, a lot of it was just like it would have taken weeks to sort through it to figure out, and a lot of it was just day-to-day paperwork, right? That you didn't really need.
Yes.
But yeah, it's
we need to digitize that. We need to have that accessible and some cloud or whatever. So
again, each one of these sounds like a project we could potentially get funding for.
Yeah.
And the thing is, until we have it described in the fashion we've described it, we didn't have a story that anybody could get behind in any detail. So we've accomplished quite a bit to this point in preparation.
And John and Randall, like moving from paper to this is like a gigantic step. So I'm okay with that. My only concern is like what John, just when I've got to find the right here, I'm losing my head here. What Phil mentioned about maintain the cost and maintaining this in the future. I guess at one point, if that we get a grant, I guess we'll need to evaluate that. I must assume, John, is that what was discussed?
Sorry, say that again, Jules. I missed that.
Okay, all right. What I'm saying is that this is great, moving from paper to digitizing it. This has been my career to do things like this, and I think that's great. But it's maintaining it in the future, and I don't want to be the negative guy, but like Phil mentioned about you know, how much will it cost to get this done and naturally get a grant, that's great, but to maintain it in the future is like you mentioned at the start, John, it is time consuming, so it'd be great to evaluate you know, would be the cost for the upcoming years when you do your evaluation.
Mhm. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah,
Jules,
like I don't put our financial records in aren't paper anymore. They're all scanned, and you know, and we
No,
have
not finance for that, John, like to maintain this database here.
yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. But yes, I get what you're, and we do have a lot of different kind of data, right? We have those financial records, we have all these reports, we have our marketing stuff, we have, you know, so
Yeah,
it's all different formats.
And the thing is there, John and Jules, is that we do have a lot in paper, but then maybe some of it never gets transitioned to digital. We'll have to make a call on that. It's just as we march forward, let's not create the same problem that we had in the past, which was not having it well stored and well documented and well easily accessible. So
Yeah, just
anyway.
piles of stuff, right? It doesn't matter whether it's digital or whether it's paper, right?
Or like I showed John about a year ago, how the Quebec folks were doing it, right? It's the user or the producer that is actually updating it to the
Updating.
database.
Yeah.
So
John, I remember working with Rhonda very closely about updating and backfiling and saving data on our system somewhere. So hopefully we've got an okay or robust collection of previous data. I'm not good at that, but I know she was pretty conscientious about that. So I don't know what you inherited.
Yeah, no, I like it. You mean in digital form?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like everything, you know,
Yeah.
it could be minutes, it could be resolute, it could be
Yeah.
all the stuff we did, contracts, everything else. I mean, I had of course, we were subcontracted to the OWLA,
Mhm.
and the OWLA assured me that we were getting, you know, backup and
Yeah.
saving of those files. So
No, it's pretty good what I
Okay,
do
okay.
have. Yeah. for
So
sure.
I'm going to just butt in here for a bit, sort of as the host for this evening, having introduced John because he's not the host. Is we're trying to give an overview of what we've come to believe is important. We're not going to resolve tonight how to do each and every piece of it, but anytime anybody brings something forward to say we should do A, B, and C, there needs to be a rationale for it. Plus, they're also going to be required to find and suggest funding sources to pay for this type of work. We can't get into the very itsy bitsy of it this evening about how to do it. And keep that powder dry until there'll be an opportunity to bring those suggestions and those experiences forward as we go towards some form of implementation. But at this point, the working group, I think they've done extremely good job. If you're really interested in how deep they went, look at that spreadsheet. And the thing is that it's a great foundation for us to move forward, but we can't move it forward tonight. So anybody have questions about the work that the group has done, not about how it's going to have to work in the future or what it may do? And if not, we've been on here for
Almost an hour. Yeah.
I see Tony Tamori has actually joined us.
Yeah. Tony, how's it going?
I don't hear chainsaws in the background.
No. Yeah. Oh, maybe he's.
Was Tony hit bad too?
Oh, very, very bad. Yeah. Yeah. Like
Okay.
the point he made, the email he sent to me, he said 12,000 taps gone. So
Maybe we should,
Oh.
be kind of, the guys that got hit, maybe we should, I don't know, join together somehow and, whatever battles we're beating.
No,
Okay.
sorry, I was just on mute there. I was trying to speak.
yeah, no problem. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going well. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, it was pretty devastating. I was actually in the forest when the retro came.
Wow.
It was terrifying. Like yeah, when the winds came through, I knew immediately I had to get out of the forest. I unfortunately wasn't in the forest that was totally decimated, but still where I was, there was still lots of branches and everything coming down. I just ran for the field, and then I got out and I was just in the field for this tornado.
Wow.
But it lasted all of a couple minutes, and then it was over. And I had left the ATV in the woods, and I just went back and got it. Yeah, no, it was terrifying to be in the forest for like that 1 minute. Because all the branches over top of me were just moving, and I heard a few crack. And I mean, it was quite harrowing. And then our forest that was destroyed, it's like not a single tree was left down the middle of it. And we had we've done a pretty careful walkthrough now. So of the 11,500 trees in the woods, 8,000 are totally gone, and then
Wow.
the other 3,000 are kind of like interspersed on the edges. And it's just not worth cleaning up everything for the sake of those 3,000 trees. Like, because all the valleys, it's like you got to climb, 6-7 feet over branches and then crawl under trees. And the forest was full of like it was our most mature forest. Like, I don't know if it'd been logged in over 100 years, and the trees are all huge, or they were all huge, and they're all gone.
Wow.
So,
That seems to be what a lot of people are saying, it was the bigger trees, right? The more mature trees that came down. Yeah.
And like Tony said, it's just, whatever was under is your new generation, all squashed.
Yeah.
So
washed, yeah.
another 50 or 60 years or probably before you see anything. Your
So that-
insurance help you out, Tony, or not?
No, we didn't insure the woods installation. We just insured sugar shacks and fire and all the equipment. But yeah, no, we didn't.
But if you look in the clause, there's a clause about,
Wind damage.
no, yeah, there's a clause about wind damage, Tony.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
But it has external of outbuilding, but it must be attached to the outbuilding. So I'm keeping this one, Tony, in my back pocket. It just like a fence. So, like you've got some pipes attached to your buildings, right? So, I mean, I'm waiting, but they have no clue how to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
They've never had anything like this.
It sounds like we need to have a separate conversation about this, just to let you know that there's been
Okay.
a position put in to the Minister of Agriculture in Ontario. They're not likely to deal with it until after the election, but we've got our marker in about some disaster relief. That will take a while to work itself through, but we've done what we can to this point, other than it sounds like we almost need a large therapy session. So I'd like to draw to conclusion this webinar this evening, and thank John and the rest of the committee for their hard work. And for those who are on the line, I'm going to reiterate it again. Let other people know about what's been done, and also go look at that spreadsheet, because there's so much work behind the PowerPoint presentation that doesn't come to light only by only looking at the PowerPoint. So thank you all very much for attending this evening. The next Thursday evening, will be on trees, accessing more trees for the future, which in one sense, it sounds like it's connected to some of our conversation here. And it also somehow connected to the work we did on climate change and the predictability and severity of storms and this type of stuff. So thank you all very much. Hope to see you and others back next Thursday. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Good luck, Tony.
Yeah, thank you.